Hey YouTube, how you doing? Biggie here, how's everything? Welcome to another movie review, and this movie review I'm reviewing today, if you remember the last time I did a movie review, I reviewed the movie, The Adventures, I reviewed the 1985 hit Sesame Street movie, Warner Bros. Sesame Street Presents Follow That Bird. If you remember that last time I reviewed that movie with guest appearances by Chevy Chase, Waylon Jennings, John Candy, and well, today I'm reviewing the sequel to it. It's a sequel in my opinion. Today I'm reviewing, if you're a fan of Sesame Street, at least old ones, at least like I was, who grew up watching Sesame Street like me, with Big Bird, Bert and Ernie, Oscar the Grouch, Cookie Monster, Elmo, Grover, the Count, and Kermit the Frog. Here is the movie I'm reviewing today. The Adventures of Elmo and Grouchland. Yep. And I really love this movie. This movie released in 1999, and it's the second Sesame Street movie, right next to Follow That Bird. However, this movie did not do as good as Follow That Bird, and as a matter of fact, because Elmo and Grouchland, but it didn't do that good at the box office, but it's done pretty. It has on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 77% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 5.8 out of a 10 on IMDb. I think that it deserves more than that on IMDb. I don't know why. At least a little bit more than that. And it has a 4.8 out of a 5 on eBay. That's pretty good. I mean, compare that to Follow That Bird, because Follow That Bird has over 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I have a few nitpicks about Elmo and Grouchland. I mean, but they're very small nitpicks. It is a good movie, but the only little nitpick I have is it doesn't have as many celebrities in this as it does, like it didn't Follow That Bird. Like, this one has Mandy Patinkin and Vanessa Williams in it. They both did a good job in this, but Follow That Bird has like Chevy Chase, John Candy, Joe Flaherty from Happy Gilmore, the jackass guy, Sandra Bernhard, Dave Thomas, and I'm sorry for my language. It's just truth, facts. But anyway, there's not as much celebrities appear in this as Follow That Bird, but I still like the movie, like, no matter what. I mean, I really like Mandy Patinkin. He played the mean, evil, greedy Huxley. He takes everything in Grouchland he even takes Elmo's blanket. He thinks everything is his. He's like, I touch it, bing. He's like, if I touch it, I own it, bing. I own it, bing. I own it. And he's like, mine. And Vanessa Williams is in this. I really love her. Vanessa Williams, she does a good job, and I really love her as the trash queen. And I really like her singing voice, and I love her music. There's two songs of hers my top favorite. Colors of the Wind from 1995, which was in the 1995 Disney film Pocahontas, and Save the Best for Last. That's from like 1991, 1992. I really love Vanessa Williams. One of my favorite, at least, like, pop R&B soul singers of all time. And But anyway, this other nitpick I have, which I don't understand. This movie was released by Columbia Pictures and Jim Henson Pictures, while Follow That Bird is from Warner Brothers. But that still doesn't change my opinion on how great the movies are. But like I said, it did good from critics. It did pretty, but it was a box office bomb. It grossed over $12 million against the budget. $12 million at the box office against the budget, more than $26 million, because I heard there was not many family movies at the time of its it was the only family film playing in most theaters at the time of its release, and Sony had planned a scale back release, but it was making it difficult to make its money back, and it opened at number 8 with a weekend, and but other than that, I still like the movie, but like, however, the Muppets come back, all the Sesame Street Muppets come back in this, like we know Big Bird, Bert and Ernie, Oscar the Grouch, Cookie Monster, Grover, the Count, and Elmo. This is his first full-length movie, but he did appear in Follow That Bird, but he only made a little short, tiny appearance in that short appearance in the end when Big Bird returned home and they disapproved Miss Finch, played by the late Sally Kellerman, take him back, and Elmo shaking his head going, no, we want him here. And if you remember, like, grew up with Sesame Street, like, remember the old Tickle Me Elmo? I used to have that, but it's in a salvage yard now. And I really miss it. I would love to have one like that again. And I used to have a lot of Sesame Street toys and loved the show and everything. I loved the movies. However, this was also the last final theatrical release film to feature Muppet film to feature Carol Spinney, who voices Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch, before his retirement in 2018 and his passing in 2019, and may he rest in peace. He also was the voice of Oscar the Grouch. We know Kevin Clash. He's the voice of Elmo in this, just like he was on the series. And yeah, but there's another nitpick I have about it. Kermit the Frog is not in this. The only thing he's in is after the Columbia Pictures at the beginning of the movie. Columbia Pictures in the beginning. And then it's after the Columbia Pictures logo, it shows the Jim Henson logo. And he's like, ah. And then he's just sitting there on the camera. And then he's some collapse. He's like, ah, ah, yeah. Which was also the same, also in the other 1999 Muppets film, Muppets from Space. There was a difference with that one where in the Muppets from Space one, after Kermit collapses, when he goes, Animal goes, Dari. I love Animal. Animal, Animal, Animal. But he's not a Sesame Street Muppet, and he does not his version of the Jim Henson logo of him going, Dari, is not on the Jim Henson logo of this movie. But other than that, I mean, I love the songs and I love the characters and everything, and all the other Muppets characters come back, like voice actors. They join, even all the Sesame Street gang comes back, like Roscoe Orman as Gordon, Bob McGrath as Bob, Sonia Manzano as Maria, and this also has like Carol Spinney. We know he comes back, and then Steve Whitmire as he's voicing Ernie in this, while Jim Henson voiced him in Follow That Bird. And ever since Henson passed away in Jim Henson passed away in 1990, Steve Whitmire replaced Jim Henson as Kermit and Ernie. And Steve Whitmire's not with the Muppets anymore, and I really not intend to talk about it. And this was also Frank Oz's final Muppet feature to involve him. He retired from being a full-time puppeteer. He went into full-time directing movies. Yeah. And it's directed by Gary Halvorson, who I've never really heard of. It says he was best known for directing and producing the show Friends. I love Friends. And Friends is from Warner Brothers, just like Sesame Street Presents Follow That Bird, that from Warner Brothers. However, the tale is in the beginning of the movie. It shows one day. However, it shows Ernie and Bert. Ernie and Bert, they start the movie and everything, and Bert's in his shower clothes, and he's like, who are you talking to, Ernie? The audience, Bert. He's like, wow, look at all those people. Ah, hey, nice cardigan. Ah, Bert, do you think you should put some clothes on? Huh? Ah, enjoy the film. Yeah, I can't really do a Steve Whitmire. I mean, Ernie. Like, that's kind of Jim Henson, but it's still the same character. But anyway, the tale shows one day Elmo's playing with his blanket in his bedroom, and he's like, together. I love that song. That together forever, the world seems fine. We never would ever leave you behind. He's like dancing, and that scene where he's playing with his blanket, and he's like, I love that when he was dressed up like that Indian with the turban, playing that Indian flute. He's like doo doo doo, and then meanwhile he spills orange juice on his blanket, accidentally takes it to the laundromat and everything, and that beat, everybody's there, Gordon, Telly, the Count, everybody's doing even Gina, they're like, together forever, the world's, and then Count, and then they're all dancing, and then Count just accidentally carrying a car, he slips on a banana peel, and then Elmo just jumps, and he takes like his blanket, he's like a parachute, he's like and he sees Zoe, his best friend Zoe appears, and then she was upset because her father, she wanted to go to the zoo, but her father had to work, so he couldn't take her. And yeah, I know how that feels. Gotta work, put food on table. Economy is crazy, I know, but we'll get through it. We always do. And but anyway, Elmo sees Zoe, and he cheers her up. He said, since Zoe can't go to the zoo, and Elmo, bring the zoo to you. And he pretends to be all these animals, and Zoe laughs, and Elmo laughs with, and she's like, thanks, Elmo, and then she sees acknowledges Elmo's blanket, and then he's like, she's like, that's a nice blanket, and he didn't want to share it, and then she said she wanted to hold it, and Elmo refused to let anybody touch us, and he was like, Zoe, Elmo wants his blanket back now, and she's like, in a minute, Elmo, and then tug of war, and then the blanket ripped, and she was like, and Elmo kind of like confronts her, but he says, Zoe, look what you did. He's like, I didn't mean to, Zoe's not Elmo's friend anymore. And then and they temporarily end their friendship for a while, and they see Telly roller skating out of control. Yeah, he's like, I can't stop. And then he grabs he swipes the blanket, leading it to a chase around Sesame Street, and then everybody's chasing it, and Grover tries to stop, and then he transforms into Super Grover. Then and then eventually, and then the blanket ends up in Oscar the Grouch's trash can, and he sneezes in it and drops it in his can, and then Elmo was looking for it. Big Bird tells him, Elmo's like, has anybody seen Elmo's blanket? Big Bird's like, oh, I saw it. It fell out of the sky, and Oscar sneezed in it and dropped it in his can. He's like, Elmo sees, and he's like, oh, and they're like, huh. And Elmo was waiting for Oscar to get home, and he just stood there, and he told everybody, even Zoe, to leave. He's like, nothing more to see, just a little monster trying to get his blanket back. But then he dives into the bottom of Oscar's trash can, where he finds a blanket. It's snagged to the door. He attempted to retrieve it, and he and his blanket are then teleported. They go through like a colorful swinging tunnel, and he lands into a trash thing, and he's like, "Where's this place?" Elmo doesn't Elmo doesn't think he's on Sesame Street anymore. And then he sees a whole bunch of Grouches, and they're like, "Hey man, you're in Grouchland." He's like, "A place where you can kick off your shoes and smell your stinky feet." And he's like, and they're like, "Yeah," and they're singing that song, and they're like, na 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 na. If you did sweaty feet on the beach, welcome to Grouchland. And they're like, one part of that song, he's like, they're like, welcome to. They're like, you could, and they're like, it's against the law to use shampoo, so we wash with cheese. I told my mom about that part, and her exact words were, ew. Like I said, I don't blame her for that response. God love my mom. But anyway, seriously, and then they welcome him, and they show a sign that would normally say welcome, and it said unwelcome, and they're like, welcome to Grouchland, and he's like, welcome to Grouchland, now scram. And he's like, and then and then a man coming on like a custom like car jet. He's a greedy man. He loves to steal anything he comes across. He comes, and they're like, oh, it's Huxley. He'll take anything. He comes, and he shows, and he's like, who dares to question my evil ways? They're like, it's him. It's the cute little red guy, and he's like, I know that bug, and he's like Elmo going, it's not nice to take things that don't belong to you, and he's like, he's like, do you hear that, bug? He says it's not nice to take things that don't belong to me, and he's like, let me explain something to you. It all belongs to me. If I touch it, you see this hammer? Bing! I own it. You see this? You see this, this tennis racket? Bing! I own it. This velvet painting of Elvis? I didn't really want it, but bing! I own it. And he's like, and this? Well, Elmo's blanket! Wrong. See, I didn't rent this blanket. I didn't buy this blanket. In fact, I didn't even take a 36-month lease on this blanket. See, he's like, so it's mine. He's like, bing! I own it. He's like, I would really love. And then Huxley just selfishly takes Elmo's blanket, and he's like, he calls it a whoopee now, and he gets in the cartoon vehicle like thing, and he's like, I really love to stay and chat, but I gotta go home and have fun with my brand new whoopee. And excuse me, Elmo was like, it's a blanket, and Huxley's like, whoopee, blanket, whoopee, blanket, whoopee, blanket, man! And shuts the vehicle, then starts it up, and then and then everybody leaves. And then then comes a Grouch girl named Grizzy, a very, very kind one, young girl named Grizzy. She's right there, right where my finger's at, the pink one. And yeah, she tells Elmo that his blanket is at Huxley's castle, top of the faraway of Mount Picanos. And yeah, and she said the only way to stop Huxley, the only solution to the problem was all the Grouches had to work together, and they hated that. But it happened in the end of the movie, which I'll discuss in a minute. And yeah, and then while Elmo he goes to Mount Picanos to the Huxley's castle, and a plant named Stuckweed, who Steve Whitmire voiced, he encourages Elmo that he'll make it if he just takes his first step. So then he sets out on a quest to retrieve his blanket, and then meanwhile back on Sesame Street, everybody was looking for Elmo and they end up in Grouchland. They go to look for Elmo, and they end up in Grouchland, and Gordon and Maria goes with Big Bird, Oscar the Grouch, Cookie Monster, Telly, and Zoe. They all go together to look for Elmo, and when they land in Grouchland, Oscar's like, yeah, the Grouchland, the land of 1,000 stenches. And Maria's like, yeah, and I think I can smell a number of them right now. And they're like, ooh. And they see all these Grouches, but then they start looking for Elmo. And when they ask a police officer for help, they end up getting arrested. And the cop, get this, the Grouch cop sent them to jail, and he was like, it's against the law to ask for help in Grouchland. You have the right to scream your head off. Should you give up the right to scream your head off, someone who will scream their head off will be provided for you. And Cookie Monster was like, me innocent. Hello, meanie cookies. And yeah, and Huxley had a bug sidekick named Bug, which was right here. Yeah. And the Pesties, and his minions, the Pesties, the Grouch Flies, they trap Elmo in a cave mine. Elmo gets out with the help of the Fireflies and somehow how to manage to survive, crashing into a pile of rocks with a minecart. And then Huxley then has Bug and Pesties misdirect Elmo into a garbage dump, where he is brought before the Queen of Trash, played by Vanessa Williams, for trespassing. And I really love that song. I really love Vanessa Williams' talent, everything, especially in this one. Yeah, and two stenchmen caught him, and they took him to the Queen of Trash. And while Elmo is unexpectedly misdirected here, and he tells the civilians who mistake him for Huxley about him and his lost blanket, and when Elmo was like, no, I'm not they thought, the two stenchmen thought he was a spy for Huxley, and he's like, no, I'm not a spy. Elmo just wants to go trying to get to Huxley so he can get his blanket back because it's mine. And she goes, Vanessa Williams is like, you certainly sound like Huxley. He's like, no, Elmo's not like Huxley at all. And then he has the memory of he's like of him and Zoe having that tug of war fight and with the blanket, and he's like, it's mine. And then they're like, let's have him prove to us that he's not like Huxley. The Queen tests him. He requesting that he blows 100 raspberries for her in 30 seconds. and he did. He blew. He just kept going, and he succeeded with some help from the audience, and the Queen allows him to pass him through, and he apologized for calling her after the stenchman took him, Elmo, to the Queen of Trash. He called it junk, and they're like, "You just said the J word?" Yeah, and Elmo, and after the Queen of Trash lets Elmo go, he apologizes for calling her garbage junk, and he's like, "It's really pretty," and she's like, "Oh, thank you, Elmo," and they're like, "Bye, Elmo," and yeah, and Elmo was on his way to Huxley's, and then Huxley sends a huge pet chicken to stop Elmo, and then he mistakes Elmo for, the chicken's like, he's like, "Can you stop moving so I can eat you?" He's like, "Leave Elmo alone." He's like, "Stop, you little worm." He's like, "I'm not a worm." And the chicken's like, "Excuse me, I'm not stupid." He's like pecking, but then he just and he's like, "You're not a worm." And Elmo was like, "I'm not. I'm a little teapot, short and stout." He's like, "I can't have tea," and they just threw Elmo away, and then Elmo survived hanging onto a tree branch, and when Huxley's watching it on his camera monitor, he's like, "Not what I had in mind, but effective nonetheless." And I love it when he's Huxley, they're like sleeping on the job or like sitting on the job, and he's like, "Get back to work!" Yeah. And Elmo decides to give up on retrieving his blanket for the night. He sleeps somewhere, and while meanwhile Grizzy sneaks into the jail, and she forms Elmo's friends that were in jail, and Elmo's friends that were in jail, that he went to Huxley's castle to get his blanket, and Oscar, he's like, "Huxley, first this guy ruined my beautiful Grouchland, and now he's messing with my..." And everybody's looking at him like, and Big Bird's like, "Oscar, were you gonna say friend?" And Oscar's like, "No, I was about to say French fried fish heads." And he's like, "Oh, I guess little stink balls, my friend, and I gotta do something about this." And after he admitted that Elmo was his friend, he convinced all the Grouches to cooperate, and they're like singing that song, "When they take our goo, we gotta do," and everybody was cooperating with. Grouches were cooperating. At Oscar's request, since it was the only way to stop Huxley from stealing any more of their trash. And then the police officer releases Oscar and the other Sesame Street residents out of jail, and then then the next morning Elmo went to the Grouches could go to Huxley's to fight for their trash, and they rescue Elmo after the Sesame Street residents and Oscar are released from jail. And early the next morning, Elmo wakes up, and a caterpillar wakes Elmo up and convinces him that he has what it takes to be brave. And he's like, Elmo then eventually he makes it to Huxley's castle, demanding Huxley to give him back his blanket, and then he sends Pesties to stop him, and then Elmo falls. He rescues his blanket Huxley sent the Pesties to stop him, and then Elmo falls into a basket as Huxley decides to make him and his blanket both his property by using like a little claw thing to put them on his conveyor stamper that says "mine," and he's like, "No, yes, no, yeah." And then the Sesame Street gang comes in there first, and they're like, Zoe, I love, she's like, stop right there, you mean old Huxley. And he was happy to see, and they're like, and then all the Grouches come in, and they're all with Oscar, and Oscar's like, it's over, Huxley. And he's like, Grouches cooperating? Oscar's like, how? Oscar's like, how you gonna get out of this one, Huxley? And he's like, I got a plan. Oh yeah? How? He's like, I don't know, I haven't figured it out yet. And then his blanket gets sucked up by the little vacuum now in his little helicopter car thing I was talking about, and then Elmo launches a basket case over Huxley's shoulders, incapacitating him, and Bug having a chance of heart after a hug from Elmo earlier in a scene I didn't mention. And after Huxley saw him, Bug, with Elmo's blanket, he's like, I knew I could count on you. And he's like, give me my whoopee. And he's like, no, boss, you're nothing but a basket case. This blanket belongs to Elmo. And then he's like, thank you, Bug. And he gives Elmo his and then Elmo, and then Bug didn't want anything to do with Huxley anymore, because he's like, I thought we were friends. But he's like, no, you're a greedy, selfish villain, and nobody likes to be friends with a greedy, selfish villain. He's like, I'll give back everything, the moon, the sun, and the stars. And Bug kept going, no. And Huxley's like, I'll give everything back. He's like, less talking, more giving. And while Bug is walking away from him, Huxley was trying to patch things up, but then meanwhile, and then Elmo returns to Sesame Street with his friends, and they all tell him how proud he was, and Big Bird told him he was one brave monster and everything, and then he apologized to Zoe, and allows her to hold his blanket, and she accepts her apology, and then their friendship is restored, and he's like, can we still be friends? She's like, yeah, friends forever. And then they're singing that, together forever, the world seems fine, we never would ever. And Elmo says goodbye to the audience, and he's like thanking them for helping. And then throughout the movie, Bert and Ernie were serving as the host, and they interrupt the film at certain point. And then, but however, I did love when Bert and Ernie, when they stopped the film once in a while, like talk about what was going on with Elmo and everything, and worrying about him. Yeah. But yeah, the characters, other than that, didn't have many, like I said, didn't have many celebrities in this like Follow That Bird did, but I still I'd give it like 3.5 out of 4 stars. But other than that, I think the songs are good. I think everything in this is, the movie's great. I mean, even it didn't do good at the box office, but other than that, it did pretty good with critics. And however, I did realize the big humongous chicken was voiced by Dave Goelz, who we remember from like Muppets. He voiced like Gonzo, and this is the only Sesame Street thing I think Dave Goelz has ever done with Sesame Street. I mean, but other than that, all the people in this did a good job, and I think Kevin Clash did a good job as Elmo, like he always did, even though but I mean, but however, I just didn't understand how it was the only family film playing in most theaters at the time it's released. I know Toy Story 2 came out in the same year as this movie, and it was released the next month. And that was pretty good too. It was a sequel to the 1995 film Toy Story, which is my favorite film of all time. And but other than that, I really think this movie is pretty good, and I really love the directors and everything. And at the end credits, I forgot in the end of the movie, it has that song. Precious Wings at the end credits of the movie. It's performed by Tatiana Ali, who we all know she played Ashley Banks on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air from 1990 to 1996 on NBC. And I listen to that song every time I watch that movie. I watch the whole end credits. I listen to it, and I really think that was a good song. I really enjoyed, and I really loved watching her on Fresh Prince, and I really like her acting. And the film was shot over a 30-day period at the EUE Screen Gen Studios in Wilmington. And yeah. However, during the following, Ernie and Bert's scenes were later shot in New York in '99, while the the filming for the film started on May 26, 1998, at the EUE Screen Gem Studio in Wilmington. And all the characters came back in Wilmington, North Carolina. It was filmed, and all the puppeteers from Follow That Bird came back, like, except Jim Henson. Had Jerry Nelson, Carol Spinney, and Fran Brill. Yeah. But like I said, it's just not really it's good, it's entertaining, it's fun, but Follow That Bird, I think it's a little bit more. But tell you the truth, it's a tie. It's a tie. I like both movies. I like both Sesame Street movies, to tell you the truth. Yeah. However, like I said, this didn't have like as many celebrities as this one, but it's just a good movie, you know? I mean, yeah. I really love this movie, and for all you Sesame Street fans, past, present, future, if you've never seen Elmo and Grouchland or Follow That Bird yet, I recommend you go see both of these. You won't be sorry. Yep, so alright, YouTube, nice seeing you. Take it easy, be safe, and stay out of trouble. Peace.